Welcome, everyone. It's 1 Million Cups. I'm Eric. I'm your host today. Sorry for the slow start there. I'm normally not so technologically off, but this is your place, your entrepreneurial start to a Wednesday to have a good day and get energized for the rest of this week. Happy Hump Day. Here's our social and all the other places you can find us. But as Katie showed you before and said, in the chat, you'll find our link to our link tree, and it will let you go to all the good things you will ever want to know about us here at 1 Million Cups Seattle. So there it is once again. That's what it's going to look like when you click on it on your phone, and then you can click on these and go to the place you want to be. So what do we do each week on Wednesday? We get together and we share ideas, we offer each other help, we support each other, we build an entrepreneurial community with the whole idea of helping starting entrepreneurs build a business or a product or even just an idea. So if you're that person, you're at the right spot. And of course, it's called 1 Million Cups because we imagine a lot of people are doing things like drinking coffee. I'm not drinking coffee, but they got coffee in some kind of mug, and that's what we're doing, drinking coffee, well, or soda. We're different than the other groups that kind of do this same sort of entrepreneurial startup help, in that we're really not trying to get people money at this point. We're not trying to network. We're really trying to get them to practice some presentations, get some connections, and do this in a safe way. In other words, this is a community-built group and that is radically and intentionally inclusive. And that means we want to hear about anybody's ideas and just really let people know it's a safe place to come and present and to give ideas and thoughts about the presenters in the Q&A session. This happens all across the nation. Lots of communities and lots of attendees and lots of volunteers each week make this happen. And each one of those communities is trying to strive to create some education each week through presentations and connections. This has happened for many a year now, about 4 or 5 years, and at least 8,000 entrepreneurs have shared their stories. I think it's probably closer to 8,500 by this point, because this slide's been out for a little while. And when we used to meet in person, this is where we met. It's the Collective right there in SLU, South Lake Union. And that is, the Collective's a co-working urban base camp spot. That's pretty cool. We couldn't do this without some great sponsors like the McLaughlin Method and the Small Studio and Human Up. They help us keep things going by allowing us to have software and access to things that make the organization of this work. And it's not so easy to organize. And speaking of that, here are the people who do it each week. We're just a bunch of entrepreneurs ourselves. And if you feel like you want to get involved and make this community grow and make it thrive, we would love to hear from you, because we're always looking for more people who want to kind of practice a new skill and let it grow in a safe space. So if you're interested, send us a message on the chat or contact us at our email address, which is Seattle at 1millioncups.com. Today, we're going to have coffee and conversation, which we've already pretty much done. Then we're going to have an entrepreneur presentation. And after that, 20 minutes of Q&A. And when we're finished with all that, we'll have a few moments left over to do some breakout rooms and maybe connect and chat and find out what's going on in the world and continue the conversation about the entrepreneur or something new. It's up to you. So as you go through today, just to make sure, if you're the listener, if you're not the person who's given the presentation, please focus, limit your distractions, kind of make sure that you understand what's standing out, make notes of those things. What do you want to know more about? Those can lead to great questions. What expertise can you share? And if you're going to share, consider phrasing your questions or your ideas as a should, not a should, but rather a what. So what do you think about? Have you tried this before? Instead of, you should be doing. So if you can kind of focus it that way, it really helps the person who taking that in see it from a point of view as an option rather than a pointing them in a specific direction. When we get to that end point and we're starting to ask questions, you're going to go on over to the reactions tab and just click on raise your hand, and then I'll call on you to let you know that it's your turn to ask a question. And we try to make those questions, and we'll remind you this again later, we try to make the questions one breath questions, kind of make them quick, and that would lead to more people getting an opportunity to ask questions during the time. That being said, I would like to present to you Howie from Compulabs Cloud. And I'm going to release the share of the screen, and he's going to take on over and give us a wonderful presentation. Take it away.
All right. Thank you, Eric. I'll go ahead and share my screen here and we'll get started. Okay, can you guys see my screen and hear me okay? All right, good deal. All right, well, my name is Howie, and I'm the founder of Compulabs Cloud, and we build online communities that serve the community. I can change here. There we go. All right, so Compulabs Cloud was founded and operated in Fort Worth, Texas, and we are on a mission to upgrade the web experience of local community organizations. We focus on security, accessibility, and the user experience to actually deliver an affordable platform to organizations at all stages of their journey. Compulabs Cloud is a proprietary product that I actually have a copyright on, filed with the USPTO. We received that last year, and we've actually been founded only since last year. So the team consists of myself. I'm the founder and the CEO. A little bit about my background. I actually am a self-taught coder and a full stack developer. And I actually went to TCU, Texas Christian University here at Fort Worth, studied political science and learned enough about politics that I wanted to do tech things. So now I'm actually a coder and decided to build a platform to solve the problem for community organizations that we saw in the community. And we actually do work with an advisory board that we have, a national advisory board. We actually work with Tech Fort Worth, which is a accelerator for any type of tech idea here in the Fort Worth area. And of course, we have interns and affiliates in our early stage company. So some of our past performance is one of the companies that we actually helped here in the local community is the NAACP here in Fort Worth. And what they needed was an affordable platform that could take complaints and any type of citizen complaint that was going on with the city in regards to employer or anything of that nature, and secure that in a secure database system. So they needed an affordable platform that was accessible to all users, inclusive to all users. And that's one big problem we're solving is the accessibility on the web. Only about half the websites are actually handicap accessible or ADA compliant. And that's one of the big issues that we're addressing here with our platform. So a little about how it works. We try to keep it simple. We have a three-step process where we actually have different plans and packages available. You can go visit our website to see our packages. You can select a package based on the size of your company and your needs. Then we'll work with our design team to bring out those requirements and find out exactly what you need. We do actually offer an available platform where you can design the site yourself. So if you are a web design agency owner or someone who's a little bit more tech savvy and you want to build your website, we can offer you that option using a drag and drop builder, and we'll come in and actually help out making sure you're compliant with your accessibility and security measures. So one slide I like to include in here whenever I'm doing a 1MC presentation. This is actually a couple of times I've done a 1MC presentation outside of where I'm located. So I'm actually in the 1MC community here in Fort Worth, and I've actually done a couple ones here in Texas, down in Austin area. And one of the things that I kind of like to include is my challenges, the things that I'm facing that other entrepreneurs may be facing as well. So really one of the things is, we're in the website design area, and there's tons of companies you guys may have heard of or other solutions you may have heard of. And so we're trying to differentiate ourselves in the market by certain things that we do. And of course, that goes along with gaining awareness of how do you actually get your message out there consistently and stand out in the market. And then the last one is, of course, networking during COVID-19, which has definitely been a different space. I actually started the company right before maybe January. It was the time I really got founded and funded, and we we built everything, we launched, and then right around that time, everything shut down. So there was a huge scramble of how do we network with people. Zoom became a huge part of our business, and we've definitely been able to network better there and persevere. And 1 Million Cups has been a great just platform to meet other entrepreneurs. They have different things that they're trying to solve, different problems they're trying to solve, and we all have the same type of issue of how do you get the momentum, how do you get the message out, how do you build that team to really create something bigger than yourself. So my last slide is a little bit about the question that normally is asked during 1MC is what can the community do for me? So I gave a lot of thought about what the kind of the issues that I'm facing right now at the stage of my company. And we're at the stage where I do most of the outreach, I do most of the networking, most of the selling. So I'm in the space where I'm looking to bring in maybe a DFY as a done for you agency that helps you generate leads, book appointments, things of that nature. So really, I would like to get some feedback from the 1MC community of how what process they use to vet some of these agencies. What type of commitments do you get in before you bring in the agency, and how do you negotiate that whole thing of just bringing in that extra part of that team to replace whatever you're doing at that time. And then, of course, any referrals, if you know anyone that has an outdated site for a local community that needs to optimize their site to be bilingual, to actually be ADA accessible. Of course, you can also send us send them our way, and we can just talk to them about some of the issues they're facing, learn about what could we do to better solve their problem, and then of course if there's any partnerships, if you guys just want to have a chat anytime soon, or please feel free to connect me with my email there, and we can connect up and just have a quick chat about some things that you notice here in the presentation, or some things that you just want to discuss with me in general. So I think that brings me to the end of my presentation here, and I think I'm maybe coming to the 6 minutes. All right, well, I think that's it for me, Eric.
Great, fantastic, thanks. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Hi, everyone. So if you have a question, please feel free to bring those up. I see a couple of hands up. The first one is Jay. Why don't you start us, Jay?
Sure. Howie, amazing presentation. Thank you for sharing about your company. Mike, I'm a librarian with Seattle Public Library. And my question is if you've discovered and used your local PTAC, Procurement Technical Assistance Center there in Texas.
No, I have not. Is that for is that for actually securing any type of institutional contracts, or what exactly do you mean by the PTAC there?
So yeah, so they got a weird name for one, and it doesn't really describe, in my opinion, what they do. But they are, the PTAC is an organization which helps people around all types of government contracting. So whenever you're trying to work with the government, governments, they pay the bills, but they pay on their own schedule, and they've got their own way of doing things. And so a PTAC exists to help businesses figure out how to be successful in that arena. And our local PTAC office here is out of, I think they work out of Green River Community College, but they assist in various ways of things. So if you haven't already tapped into them, they might be a good place to kind of help get advice. They also have like databases and things where you can like work with them on finding those referrals and things of various levels of government, because like city, county, state, all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, that sounds great. That's definitely in the area where we're thinking about this being used is in the government area, in different ISDs and in local government. So I'll definitely look into that. Thank you.
I'll put the link into the find a PTAC center in the chat too.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you.
That rocks. That's great stuff, Jay. You always have some new thing that I have never heard of before that makes me want to go search it out. So I appreciate it every time you bring that multitude of information you have from the library. It's so great. Stephanie, you have your hand up.
There you go. I should be
Go ahead.
unmuted. Oh, I have a lot of questions since I'm in this space. I'm one of those marketing agencies you referred to. So I have a lot of feedback because I've been in the business for 6 years and I worked with a number of agencies before. And I can tell you the various tactics many of them use in models to give you the best kind of what the things you're going to need to look for. Secondly, I am a developer as well. And I'm very curious from the full stack side you've mentioned is what is the integration that you've built on? From what I've seen on my second monitor over here, I've been looking at if whether or not the system you're doing is an open source system or if it's been customized. And it looks like the front end on the couple portfolio pieces you mentioned is WordPress. So I'm very curious what backend integration you have that basically makes you stand out, because of course, many of our local consumers know what WordPress is, especially if they looked it up to see saying, okay, well, what makes you different versus this other developer I've talked to, which is part of the issue you're running into is the differentiation of the product. So I know that's a lot of questions, but I'm very curious what tech underneath the hood you guys are working with in order to do the accessibility aspect.
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. In terms of the stack we use, we are built on top of WordPress. So we actually took the approach of making WordPress easy. A lot of the customers we found actually get into WordPress, they set up a system, and they don't actually have any maintenance or any type of system that monitors the updating and the accessibility within the system. So we actually do have a custom theme that we've developed that actually checks your accessibility. It actually checks, it does all your reporting for your security. So it gives you an easy report on your lockouts and the management of your IP whitelisting and things of that nature. So really we are built on top of PHP.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you an integration? Basically, if someone were to go to you and already had a pre-existing site, could they say, hey, we just want the accessibility part, but we have unfortunately, I've ran into before people saying, oh, I have my server in the basement and I think it's safe there as opposed to the cloud. Obviously, as developers, we don't want that, but some people might. Is your product, or is there, I'm curious if there's plan in the future as well, is that there's a lot of accessibilities, a lot of security plugins out there, a lot of integrations. What, again, going back to what you were asking and saying differentiation is what is different because it's combined with the theme in terms of the integration, or if it's because it's something that either can be added or it's an entire on your server, as well as in general, how everything's done together. That's what makes the product.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's definitely the process and everything built on top. So we actually use Amazon Web Services for our back end. So that's essentially where everything's being hosted. But what happens normally is that the people we face, they get started with, first of all, Amazon Web Services is a daunting thing for them. And then once they get started building this, their own IT team can't keep up with the maintenance as well as the documentation of accessibility. So I don't know if you heard of a VPAT reports, a volunteer actually accessibility type of report that needs to be generated whenever you're working with government agencies. So we actually have a plugin that automatically creates that report for them. So that's really the backend that we use, that it has a regular monitor maintenance. And I'm really glad you asked that question, because really the biggest problem we had was that our system did a lot of things. We do event management, document management, all these are custom little plugins. And so the question is, what's the real thing that people will say that's what makes you different? And when you do 8 different things, some people say maybe we're an all-in-one, that's what makes us unique. But really, I think it's the accessibility report that we are able to auto-generate.
Agreed. I just from knowing from the space when you're at and the type of customer you're looking for in community who worry about certain aspects, I can see from the customers I've worked with that they would say, oh yes, we want to use WordPress for search engine optimization purposes, for convenience from our front end team in terms of blogging, article, and just PR in general, but then also having the backend that's connected as well. So I have more questions, but I will end that there. I of course will definitely be reaching out because I'm curious. Plus I have a lot more feedback in terms of the agency aspect you were asking about as well. So thank you. Great question.
Please do.
Wonderful
And I
presentation.
also love to talk to you about kind of marketing agency background that you have as well. So please definitely reach out to me, and I'll be looking forward to that.
Sure, perfect.
Stephanie, feel free to raise your hand again, and we'll get back to you if there's not a lot of other questions. In addition, I will probably, Katie will probably put the two of you into the same breakout room at the end of all this to ensure that that kind of discussion can go forward. So I think that's a great one. I was going to raise my hand earlier, so I'm just going to hop in and do a real quick question. And that is, what was the inspiration that made you move towards working with the .org world, over someone else? What was that? And I don't need like a 3-year thing, but just it's interesting to me that you chose that, and I love it. So help me understand you a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, really, I have a lot of volunteer experience just personally. I'm a member of a number of local community organizations. I'm a member of the Rotary Club here at Fort Worth, as well as the KPC and the NAACP, a number of different organizations. And I've always done that throughout my life. My parents pretty much brought me up with that volunteer kind of mindset. And I actually have a web design agency where we do work with larger companies, right? So normally we work with roofing companies doing about $2 million in revenue, anywhere to a kind of a plumbing company that's doing something around there. And we were being reached out by a number of community organizations that needed a service, and they didn't quite have the funding, but they actually needed even more actual web services because they needed to be compliant with the ADA. They needed to be compliant with FERPA and COPA, these different acts, which actually required more development. So I was like, well, maybe there could be a platform that these smaller community organizations can go to, get an affordable system, and still be compliant with some of these regulations. And that's really where the whole idea kind of started at.
I absolutely love that. That's a great answer because it's so truthful, and it shows that you've got experience in that world and that you care about that world. So very cool. I wouldn't doubt if there's a possibility, you should keep your eyes open for this. There might be a grant out there where you can help support these fledgling groups that are trying to do startups for community organizations, because I've known 2 or 3 people who had a great idea, and I said, well, you're going to have to be HIPAA compliant, or you're going to have to be FERPA compliant, and they shut down because they don't want anything to do with it. So fantastic, that's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's cool. Thanks so much. The next person who had their hand up was Katie.
All right. Yeah, I think that Stephanie and Eric took a couple of the questions that I had, but perhaps a bit of feedback kind of building on the conversation that we're having here would be around really kind of directly speaking, and this is something that I'm working on too, so it's very top of mind for me, but really kind of directly speaking to what is the problem. And I think that was something that for me felt a little muddy during your presentation, that I was kind of getting a little confused about what the problem was, because it's not also my problem, right? So I think making sure that it's really clear of what the problem is, and that will help you as you try to get investors or grants or try to get customers, right? Because they're going to see, oh, Compulabs Cloud is talking about this problem. I have that problem, right? And then they're going to want to like dig in and learn more about how you specifically solution and solve their problem. So that's all. Yeah. No questions.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. No, yes, that's great feedback. Thank you, because I think that's, you guys are all kind of hinting at, because I know my product better than anyone else, right? But now the question is, how do I communicate it to people, right? So that's really the issue, that being a technical founder, I design a system myself. I know every little code and things, but now the question is how to communicate that to a buyer. So I definitely appreciate that feedback.
You're on mute, Eric.
It seems that the answer that you gave to me tells people that's how you found out what those problems are. And you understand it because you've been there. There's nothing tells you more about whether you understand it than experience. So fantastic, cool stuff. Next up is Jay Vetz.
Jessica Vetz, and thank you.
Jessica, hi Jessica.
Hey, so 2-part. One, Eric brought up talking about grants And many years ago when I worked for a Chamber of Commerce, got a grant to develop a WordPress widget that helped other chambers to do invoicing and membership directories. And the problem we always ran into was implementation. And so working with people to use a product that is free, but they don't have enough money to even implement it. And so I didn't necessarily hear enough about sort of how does an organization that's already cash strapped potentially, what kind of help is there for implementation and for kind of using this? And then the second part of that is the tentativeness that we found from organizations to implement our platform was there's not enough support there. You're not one of the big boys. So when you do your we are a team part of the presentation, I would list out, and sorry, this is a tell, not a what if, but I would try and highlight that you are a team. It's not just you. You're not an individual player, because organizations need to know that structure, that there's something there more than just yourself. And I call it the somebody gets hit by a bus or wins the lottery and they're gone syndrome. And so it's like showing that there's more there than just you.
All right, thank you. That's perfect. Yeah, we do have support plans, but I don't have it in the presentation. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. I think that Stephanie is back on with another question. Yay, Stephanie.
Oh God, I feel so bad because I just have a slew of them because I feel like I've been here before with a lot of these different things. I also work with a lot of backend development agencies, and the biggest problem they have, backend developers who do custom, like with not only open source, but also custom PHP products, inventory, industries with manufacturers, the biggest issue they have is speaking to the client, because we're developers, and half the time is many developers are introverted and not sure how to do the sales talk. When a customer asks them and says, well, this is how it works, and they say, well, I want it to do this, and you're going in your head like, that's 6 more hours of development time just to change a button.
Yeah.
Are you sure you really want a button changed to a different color? It becomes a very different type of conversation with that. So I can understand the previous with the client fears and everything is them understanding what exactly you're offering. I think a big element that I've run into in this space more than anything, especially with smaller organizations, is the aspect of being the solution, which is showing examples of what you could be, why it hasn't worked before, why working with another company has not been the proper delivery, especially with the back end in terms of what's relative, is because if they ask pointedly, just being open and honest, saying this is how we're built, this is what is here. If you have someone, because especially with not-for-profits, there's always someone's, especially with, well, certain industries, certain groups of not-for-profits, I won't say .org in general, but I'm thinking from not-for-profit sector. A lot of them know a friend of a friend, because usually they, especially if it's a small not-for-profit, they might have a board of directors, but the board of directors, typically it's someone they know. They're not supposed to pick people they know or friends they know or have any compensation to it, but usually it's someone they know. And so with that, usually you have someone who's going to pointedly ask, well, what type of technology you're running? How is this actually going to help them? Are you actually going to be able to do your job? I think I could do it better. There's always those types of questions where I feel that in terms of getting in front of those places, the biggest thing is to say, this is a solution. It has been obviously maintained for you, but this is what it looks like. I know it's in, this is, again, you're in the early stages of this. My background is mainly content marketing. You guys need more. I think you should have more content educating the back end of the product, educating what it's going to look like, a portfolio of sorts, to say not only does it look nice, but it does all these different features, because that's always the problem is clients will ask, can I get donations? Can I, if I have a sponsor, can they able to do an event? For an organization, can I have a directory? Can I talk to other stuff? Is there a CRM compatibility to it? Eric mentioned HIPAA, as well as, you know, PCI compliant, as well as all the other various different requirements in terms of being black box in the sky, which WordPress itself as an open source software is notoriously not great for HIPAA in regards to that. So you have to say, well, this is how it's set up. Here's the combination of that, either in infographics, actual video presentations, actually walking through it, things that will be able to get you in front of that. With that being said, the biggest thing I would look for in terms of working with someone to do that for you, if you're not going to do it in-house, because again, your team is small at this time, you can't necessarily have all the resources with the current staff you have to do it in-house, is to really look at what types of assets are going to be delivered. There's a lot of people saying, like, for lead acquisition, what you're looking for, we need more people to understand what we're doing different. A lot of companies will want to, in my space, will want to say, okay, well, we can run advertising. Advertising is great if you have somewhere to lead people to, meaning you need to be able to solve the message you have on your current marketing to show in front of people saying, here's what we're offering, here's why it's a solution for you first, before you start spending thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars in advertising, because it's not going to give you the results nor the metrics of understanding what people are looking for in your product. I have a lot more than that, but I guess my last thing is looking at moving forward is, for your startup, because I've worked with I was part of an incubator process with another company. For that in Texas, I'm curious, what stage are you in? It sounds like it was an incubator. Are you an accelerator? I assume because you're already doing business and you're out there, you're probably in the accelerator process. What stages are you currently in, and are they still helping you for the rest of this year? Like, what's the process in that? I'm curious over there as opposed to here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, the startup accelerator I'm in is it's a smaller one here in Fort Worth. There's some larger ones in Austin that you may have heard of. They're pretty popular, but the one here in Fort Worth has been operating for about 3 years. I'm in a pre-seed stage of my company, so we have not taken any capital, haven't raised anything, but we are in the market with an actual product launch. So right now we do have clients. We actually are working with some local ISDs here in Houston, actually, a large ISD in Houston.
Awesome. That was a lot of good information you got there. Luckily, you don't have to type it all down and write it all down. We will have a video for you, as you know, later to see, and you can go back and listen to what Stephanie had to say there, because lots of nuggets, of nuggets. Okay?
Yes, thank you guys. Yeah, I'm taking little mini notes just 'cause I like to remember it a little bit, but you guys are definitely
sure.
Definitely bringing up great points, and I appreciate it.
I think Drew has a question.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you share education on what your security measures do. You said you focus on security. What are the aspects of that, and do you share like what things do?
Yeah, we have a publicly actual security policy that's available on our website to download, which shows our exact procedures that we use. But essentially, it kind of goes back to what was mentioned earlier, how WordPress by default kind of has a lot of different holes that are not being monitored unless they're actually properly configured. So essentially, instead of having to do a complete raw install of WordPress and then actually go back, make sure you have all these different steps in terms of phish testing, file matching, and all the different things you have to do to secure the WordPress environment. Compulabs Cloud essentially has that all built in. The minute you get started with your website, you already have those actual plugins are already set up. And then we have our actual document referral online as well.
Okay, interesting.
Very cool. Eugene, you're up.
Yeah, so I only have one question. What did you do the online security? So how is your percentage can secure someone about their data? And also I saw you do the cloud. I know the cloud, but what is the difference between the Oracle and the AWS and about your company, the cloud? So did you have a very, very high secure, and like Oracle and the AWS, like Amazon, AWS, the cloud can secure a lot of people, a lot of some of the business information for the data. So what is your data system and your company use?
Yep. Yeah. That's a great question. Yeah. No, see, we are actually on top of an existing cloud. So Amazon Web Service has their standards of cloud security that they do with their servers. And we actually do an additional front end layer of security on the actual installation of the WordPress.
What price? What does that mean?
on the WordPress installation. It's a open source platform, but there's still some holes within. If you just install a default setting of WordPress, there's still going to be some essential, some open potential places for people to access your site. So we actually install some additional front end things that monitor the WordPress integrity to increase the security of the platform.
So actually in your website, in your company can help the people to website the secure the someone the website information, and will not like people to hack the someone the website can take all of about their information for them.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So we offer additional layer on top of Amazon Web Services, and we do keep all of our and we do use the Amazon Web Service located here in the U.S. So that's one thing big of our clients. Sometimes clients will say that we only want our data stored in the U.S. So they don't want any outside development or any outside storage of the data.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting question. And Lisa, you've got a question.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for your presentation. And I have a quick question that I hope it's not a silly question, but I've just launched 2 businesses and I've been going through a lot of contacting companies for support. And you said you can contact our team if needed for any assistance. And it's funny when I hear something like that, the stress sort of shoots up my spine. Like, how is that going to be? I had one company that I contacted and they said, oh, well, we're available, we'll get back to you in 2 to 3 days, and that wasn't workable for me. And then the people with the chats, the companies with the chats, that's been really helpful. Like if I can just do a chat and get a question answered, it's great. So I was just curious about that.
Yeah, that's a great topic. I mean, that's really the biggest issue with a tech company is how to really offer the support that the user's looking for at an affordable price. So if you notice, even the largest companies now are outsourcing their support overseas or just any type of bot chat or something like that. We actually do have a phone number that we answer 8 to 5. So that's actual, you can speak to a real person that day, or you can respond through our ticketing system, which is in the back of our back end, which would be a 24-hour turnaround time. So normally, if you want, we actually have broken our support up into a premium support plan. So if you purchase the premium support plan, then you are going to get preferred access to our actual person to speak with. But if we just have our standard support plan, then you'll be going through our email system, and that's really been an issue with a lot of the ISDs that we've been looking at. They definitely want someone to talk to. When something's wrong, they want to be able to call on the phone and have someone to speak to. And even with some of the largest companies, they aren't getting that. So I can definitely understand your pain, because I've spoken to a number of different companies, and they have just opted to outsource the whole support of their system.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Great. I think we have one more question. I think we have time to squeeze it in. Katie, what do you have for us?
All right. So my final thought here to wrap all this up is there's a lot of technical components to everything you and Stephanie were kind of talking through, and the questions like Eugen and Drew had about security. I'm not a technical person, and I assume most of your customers are not either, right? And so it's just really important to spell out the basics. Like, WordPress is hard. WordPress has all these problems, right? You're just describing the security thing. You can't just do X. You can't just do Y, right? Here's how all the costs add up, and here's where all the risk comes in, right? I tried doing my first website on WordPress 5 years ago, and I ran away because I was like, this is so hard. I'm pretty tech savvy, but this is so hard and it doesn't make any sense. And so I went, now my website's on Squarespace, and I personally discourage everybody from using WordPress, but everybody also encourages you to use WordPress because of things you get down the line that you might need, right? The customization, things like that. But so I would just encourage you to really strip out anything technical, any abbreviations, and you can even use, actually, here's an idea. You can use like Microsoft Word or Google Docs or things like that have scoring of written copy, and it can rate like the reading level. And so just making sure you can use something like that to help identify areas where you're maybe too technical for your average consumer.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely been the issue I've been having since the start. Is I've been sometimes when the government contracts, they're very technical. They're written by buyers who go to the IT team. The IT team tells them the specs goes out, and so it's a very technical discussion. But when you go to consumers, it's more just, what do I need? What does it do exactly?
Right.
So that's been a struggle for us.
Well, and I think depending on how, like when I see .org as your driver, right? Like that for me spells out like nonprofits, and many of the nonprofits I worked for, there were 6 employees. None of them were an IT person, right? So like, it sounds to me though, that they could still benefit from your services, right? So having it basic on the front end, but then also have the technical stuff available, like Stephanie mentioned, via more content on your website, or like download the tech specs, right, for your IT folks or something like that.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Outstanding as usual. Great discussion. Love it. You guys did great today. Thanks for being here. We do have a few more things, little housekeeping for me to get through here. So let me find my screen, and once again has hidden itself. Why it does this, I don't know. There it is. And you kind of answered this question before, Howie, when you gave us kind of some things. Is there anything else that you think that the 1MC community can do for you that maybe popped up from today's discussion?
Not really. I really just want to just say thank you to everyone for the feedback. This is really why I try to do these presentations, to get feedback from people who are trying to craft their own presentation and have different things on their mind of things they should be stressing. So definitely just want to thank you guys again, because it's definitely been helpful.
Yeah, and just to remind everyone, the number one thing that he was looking for help with was the idea of going through and finding a marketing solution to help him out in growing his business. So did I say that right, Howie?
That's correct. Yeah, I was trying to figure out, what does that look like to bring on that partnership? Do you go to a company, say, hey, we'll split profits for the next couple of months? Do you do something where we pay a retainer fee? What's something that maybe you guys had previously done or heard of, or that could possibly help?
All right, good deal. That's not all though. We would love to have you out there join us in some way. If you've got an idea, a business, a pivot, whatever you're thinking about, please think about applying to present. And just remember, you're just looking to try something new. You're hoping to get some answers to questions, and maybe even learn about questions you didn't even have. You want to learn by doing. If you want to go through that process with us, we'd love to help you. And the best part is, if you come in, if you apply to present, you can talk to us, and you can back out. We're not going to be mad or anything. We're really just we want to get you started, and you can find out how far you want to go by whether you can go through and do that first presentation with 1MC Seattle. Also, once again, I want to put a shout out there. If you want to get involved, we'd love to have you. So Seattle@1millioncups.com is the easiest way to reach out and say, I think I'd like to be a community organizer too. The pay is dreadful. It's $0. But you do get, every so often a mug like this, which does make your day, or a t-shirt like this that makes your day. So maybe it's not no pay. So we got that going for us. Once again, if you want to find out more about us in our weekly meetings, just go to linktree.ee and 1MC Seattle. We'd love to have you there. And that's in the chat. And then finally, next week, we don't have anyone lined up as of right now, but we're working on that. We will have something for you next week. We're not going to go away. So please feel free to hop on and see who's coming next week. It'll be a surprise. Think about how fun that is. That being said, Katie has probably been working hard on creating some, she's giving me the thumbs up, giving us some breakout rooms. So that being said, You are at this point, we're going to break into these breakout rooms. And if you can stay, please do. If you can't, then you've got a free pass to go and start your day. I hope this energized you and helps you get started, and good luck with everything you're doing today. Thanks again for coming. Bye, everyone.